What's up, everybody? It's your boy Mel here for another classic review, and damn, you guys miss me, don't you? It's been like 2 months since my last review, which was, my thoughts on the teaser for Friday the 13th 2, which came out back in April, was it? Yeah, I think it was around April. I've been a bit busy lately, but it doesn't mean I've been watching you guys, mostly on the comments about of my uploads, including some of my recent ones as well. Suggesting some videos you want me to watch, which I might check it out later. But nothing more to do. So today I'll be talking about my thoughts on the 1954 Walt Disney classic 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, based on the novel by Jule Vernes. And tell you the truth, this is actually a good film. It has 90% Rotten Tomatoes, which damn. And this is actually an interesting production history, including the cast, everybody in there, including the involvement, and also a gentleman's agreement between two iconic Hollywood direct founders as well. Why am I saying? Well, before we begin, did you subscribe? Did you hit the bell? If so, you always wonder, what's better, to live on land or under the sea? Let's check it out, shall we? So yeah, if anybody hasn't read the book, which I didn't, I heard of Jule Vernes, like he did a lot of sci-fi ones. Meaning, well, face it, he made I think, okay. The first time I heard about Jule Vernes was in, believe it or not, Beetlejuice the animated series. Yeah, I don't know. I think it was the third season, I believe, where when Beetlejuice was talking about what he did in high school with Jock, the skeleton. When they were in the library, he talked about Jule Vernes actually saving Jule Vernes after hopping in a book to avoid the librarian. Which is Beetlejuice telling how I helped Jock stay fit, which he was big boned. Another was, a certain film called The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, where they have their own version of Captain Nemo and the Nautilus. That one. I know about the attraction Disneyland, which unfortunately it became a attraction of, Nemo, Finding Nemo. But back to the film. Okay. This film almost became another film, same film, but directed by a different, you know, sorry. This film almost been made by another person. And guess who that was? George Powell. Yeah. The man behind Puppetoons. The reason? He made two sci-fi films, I think one in the 50s and one in the 60s. The first one, and this one came out before 20,000 Leagues Under Sea. It was H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. Yeah, the iconic one where everybody was shitting their pants thinking there was an alien invasion during the Great Depression. And this came out in 1953. George Powell wanted to make this film, but due to, let's say, a whole lot of projects, a whole lot of films, he made a gentleman's agreement with Walt Disney. I think it was Walt Disney who made the agreement that if George Powell couldn't make a Leagues Under the Sea, Disney will do it. Will do the film. And lo and behold, by the agreement of two gentlemen, Walt Disney made the film, and the rest is history. Which is quite interesting. Because not just that, George Powell made not only World of the Worlds, but also another iconic sci-fi film called The Time Machine, which came out in 1960. The rest, I think, mostly about Greek mythology, like, Attack of the Titans, the Argonauts, those iconic stop motions. You know what I'm talking about. But we're talking about sci-fi, and if George Pell made 20 Leagues, it would have been three iconic sci-fi films, along with World of Wars, War of the Worlds, and The Time Machine, which would have been quite interesting. No, if George Pell, if he actually made Leagues Under the Sea, then the ride, the iconic ride from Disneyland wouldn't even existed. So that is just crazy. And also, you won't believe who directed this film, and it's actually quite funny. The man who directed 20 Leagues Under the Sea was Richard Fleischer. If that last name doesn't ring a bell, he is I think he was let me see. Yeah, he was actually the son of animation pioneer and Walt Disney's rival, Max Fleischer, aka the man behind Betty Boop, Coco the Clown, Popeye. Well, he brought Popeye to life, but still, I didn't know that Walt Disney hired the son of his arch rival, which actually that cemented him being an A-list director, thanks to Walt Disney, and this was his first major film, and also connection to famous stars like Kirk Douglas and many others. Not only did he did Leagues Under the Sea, he also did other films like Dr. Dolittle, Tora Tora Tora. What else? Conan the Destroyer. And a lot more, including some horror, the horror sequel, Amityville 3D from 1983, which, damn, I didn't know about that. But of course, Fleischer worked with many of Hollywood's top stars back in the day, like Kirk Douglas, Robert Mitchum, James Mason, Tony Curtis, Richard Egan, Ray Milland, Orson Welles, Rex Harrison, George C. Scott, Charles Heston, and also Arnold Schwarzenegger, which, hey, Conan the Barbarian. Unfortunately, he passed away back in 2006 at the age of 89 due to complications. Sorry, sometimes I have to stutter. It was he was in his sleep of a respiratory infection. Japanese film director Kiyoshi Kurosawa expressed admiration for Fleischer. And he was also chairman of Fleischer Studios, which today handles the licensing of Betty Boop and Coco the Clown. Back in 2005, he released his memoirs of his father's career, titled Out of the Inkwell, Max Fleischer and the Animation Revolution, which actually I'm planning to buy the books because it caught my attention because I like to read about, like people who did like animation, graphic design, and hey, this was the guy who was the pioneer of animation before Walt Disney took centerfold as the animation king. But yeah, back to 1,000 Leagues. This film was quite interesting. It opens up to, the music score for 20,000 Leagues was composed by Paul Smith, which, man, the iconic opening of the film, the music score for that, it's pretty interesting. Give that, like underwater, under the sea vibe. And also the action, because here's another tidbit. There was a sequence where they had to rise up, but fortunately they were attacked by a giant squid. I saw this scene in a bonus feature for Pirates of the Caribbean Desmond Chest, when they're talking about the effects for the Kraken. And they pulled out this sequence of them fighting the giant squid on the Nautilus, which I did not knew until I saw that. Wait, is this from? Oh, this is where it's from. Which has actually made me laugh. It's actually pretty funny. And the budget for this film was like $5 million. It made a box office over 28.2 million, which is a lot. Wow. Back in that day. It was released on December the 23rd, 1954, 2 days before Christmas. It was distributed by Buena Vista Distribution, which, well, their own distribution. Hey, it was quite interesting. But what was the plot? Well, it sets in 1868, which I think says a lot longer. Rumors of a sea monster attacking ships in the Pacific Ocean, where we meet Professor Aronnax is an assistant, Conseil, played by Paul Lucas, and Peter Lorre, which Peter Lorre, wow. If everybody doesn't know who Peter Lorre is, those who have seen horror films, you must have seen Looney Tunes, right? Peter Lorre is quite easy recognizable with that iconic. My. Yeah, that weird little like that weird little guy, like the Linus. That's where they got the idea for Peter Lorre. If you've seen him, he has that personality though. He's more famous in horror films. Mostly he started along with Vincent Price, like other kind of films. Like I'm trying to remember some. I've seen some of the films that he appeared along with Vincent Price in his films, like Comedy of Terror, The Raven, which he also played the father to a young Jack Nicholson. Yeah. Jack Nicholson pretended to be his son in The Raven, which is actually pretty funny, actually. He appeared in a lot more horror films, and his likeness appeared more in cartoons, mostly in Warner Bros. Cartoons like Looney Tunes. Which, of course, and also we have Kirk Douglas playing Ned Land, a master harpoonsman, you know, those who throw harpoons at whales. Which, of course, there was a little gag scene here in town. Looks like some type of Klondike country town, where we have an old man explaining what he saw, claimed to be a survivor, but of course it ends up being a con. And of course, Kirk Douglas' character starts a brawl until the police have to pull his ass out. Of course, Professor Aronnax and his assistant, Conseil, are asked to investigate on board a U.S. Navy frigate, which of course they're joined by Kirk Douglas' character, Ned Land. After months of patrolling, they spot the monster after they see a ship got attacked. The frigate's gun crew open fire, but the monster rams the warship, not destroying it, but causing the ship to tip, causing Ned, Conseil, and Aronnax to go overboard, while the frigate is disabled and drifts away. While cleaning on the wreckage, Aronnax and Conseil come upon they thought was the creature, but was actually a metal ship, which to Aronnax is quite impossible and extraordinary to see such a vessel. Which I don't blame him, face it. Imagine an iron ship that can go dive underwater. Hey, 1860s. It is quite possible. The Confederacy tried to do that. They succeeded, but unfortunately that's their only ship when it sunk. Due to the impact from the explosion. You know what I'm talking about, the Hunley. But that's a different ship from a different time. Of course, they explore the ship. Of course, where's the crew? They look at the giant ass porthole and see the crew of the ship and walking around exploring underwater. Of course, they get out quickly. They encounter, oh boy, the harpoonsman. Kirk Douglas's character, Ned. Of course, they're then spotted by the crew of the ship. Which, I'm sorry, seeing Ned trying to defend, punching everybody, trying to stop him, but it's too late. They're brought on board the ship where they meet the captain, Captain Nemo, played by James Mason, which of course Captain Nemo recognize Professor Aronnax, Professor Aronnax. But of course, he asks his men to toss Conseil and the other guy, Ned, overboard, says they ain't worth nothing, literally. Captain Nemo recognizes Professor Aronnax from his works, which, of course, he let him see. As for the other two, he just wants to drown them until he sees how resilient they are, so he let them inside. The rest is mostly about how he survived, how the sea is more better than land, and also his hatred from men. Most specifically, when he takes Aronnax to an island, which is supposed to be found in an enslavement camp, mining a peanut island where they're loading munitions. I figured out the name of the type of ammunition they use for explosives. Nitroglycerin, I believe it was called. Yeah, nitroglycerin, which, of course, Captain Nemo orders Aronnax, Conseil, and Ned into their rooms because they're about to go to battle station, which they ran the ship as the ship was leaving, caused the ship to sink and explode. And the massive impact explosion caused the whole sub to shake, which I don't blame him. And plus, Captain Nemo has a pet sea lion, I think. A sea lion? What is a seal or a sea lion? I don't know. So explain me that one, but hey. Of course, Ned, being a cocky ass as he is, goes into Nemo's private room, look at the map where his base is located, writes down the coordinates, grab a couple of bottles, and start writing, letters in the bottle. Yep, he tosses them out. Unfortunately, let's just say when they get to the island, they have a surprise when his base has been discovered by, the ones that he's been attacking. Of course, he tells the ship to dive, get in the base, because he doesn't want the enemy to get hands on his secrets. So, guess what he does? He sets the island to self-destruct, a massive bomb. Unfortunately, there was a shootout with the invading platoon, which of course, Captain Nemo receives a shot in the back, which of course he's bleeding to death. As they leave the island, he tells everybody to go to quarters, which, one, because he's planning to sink the sub down to the water. And also because the island's gonna blow. Literally, completely explode, destroyed. Of course, Ned doesn't agree. He starts to fight. He manages to get everybody. He even knocks out the professor because he wants to stay, but nope. Fuck no. You're coming with us. He just knocks him out. Takes him boat. He even saves the pet seal. And lo and behold, 3, 2, 1. BAM! The island explodes. Nothing left. How it looks? Well, now we know which... I'm sorry, but Was this island Krakatoa? Because that island sunk, right? I don't know if this is correct or what. Did Krakatoa exploded? It caused the island to sink as the damn volcano exploded. Was this Krakatoa? Damn, I don't know. Of course, Nemo's last words to Aronnax echoed, "There is hope for the future, and when the world is ready for a new and better life, all this will someday come to pass, in God's good time." And that's quite interesting, and pretty cool, actually. As for the cast, you have a good list of cast members. Like, you got top ones like Kirk Douglas, James Mason, Paul Lucas, Peter Lorre, and a lot more, actually. For the production, it was pretty interesting. For the history, there were various locations in it for films, like in the Bahamas, Jamaica, with the cave scene filmed beneath what is now the Ex-Tabi Resort on the cliffs of Negril. Other scenes were photographed in Nassau, Lyford Cay, and Death Valley. Say what now? Whitworth's film took place from January 11th to June 19th of 1954, which, according to the documentary, the scenes in San Francisco were filmed at Universal Studios, while most of the modeling shots were done at 20th Century Fox. Some location filming sequences were so complex that they require a technical crew of more than 400 people. Guess which one was it? The giant squid attack. Yeah. The famous giant squid attack sequence had to be entirely reshot, as it was originally filmed as taking place at dusk in a calm sea, which, yeah, I kind of like the storm one. It looks more epic. It looks more epic and swashbuckling. Like, you're in a massive storm, and you have this giant ass squid attacking your ship. Of course, it'd be pretty more interesting in a storm than a calm sea. Oh boy. The sequel was filmed again, this time taking place, like I said, twilight and during a humongous thunderstorm, both to increase the drama and better to hide the cables and other mechanical workings of the animatronic squid, which that'd be a good reason, because you don't want to show your cards. You don't want to show your hands. Yeah, keep the magic, Damn. Oh boy. Whew. And here's a little tidbit. With a total of deeply overrun production costs of $9 million, 20 Leagues Under the Sea was the most expensive and ambitious production in Hollywood at the time. And guessing by that Rotten Tomatoes score, it succeeded. And made his money back. And also, this film won 2 Academy Awards, which is Best Art Direction, Color, and Best Special Effects. But it was also nominated for Best Film Editing. It also won the the National Board of Reviews Awards of 1954 in the category Top 10 Films, and nominated for a Saturn Award, and won a Online Film and Television Association Award in the category Hall of Fame Motion Picture, which rightfully so. It also has a part of the history of Disneyland. It has an attraction there as well. Well, used to. Now it's Finding Nemo now, which I think You all know what I'm talking about. Overall, 20,000 Leagues Under Sea is an iconic film, which I recommend that you check it out. Also, the music as well, that is awesome. But yeah, overall, I give this film like a 8.9 out of 10. It was pretty good. It was from a different time, and plus, imagine if Walt Disney didn't do this. It was actually if and George Powell made this film. It would have been weird and also different because remember the novel is part also iconic part. Had been seen in Disneyland. The attraction. If it wasn't made, what was gonna be there? Exactly. But overall, it's a good film. I recommend it if you guys if you're a fan of the novel of Jule Vernes, or you into like classic sci-fi films from the 50s, like in color. This type of film action. Hey, this is the type of film for you. But until then, let me know in the comments down below of what you think of 25 The Leagues Under the Sea. And it's also on Disney Plus, so check it out. And let me know in the comments down below what you think of this film. Did you enjoy it? Did you saw it on Disney Plus, or you had it on DVD or VHS? Because yeah, I rarely see these on VHS, like along with other iconic Disney classic films like Herbie and other films. Whew. But let me know in the comments down below what you think. And if you're new to the channel, remember to subscribe, hit the bell, like this video, and also follow, because we're aiming our goal at least maybe 10K, because we're almost at 10K, so that's quite good for us. And also like this video, hit the bell so you'll miss any of our great content. And until then, have a great day everybody. Stay safe, peace out. Stay awesome.